I remember a time where I envisioned there being a Flash movie. It's something I've always wanted to see, but I gotta say, this is an entirely different movie than what I always imagined. And this being a Flash review, I figured I'd do this review in a Flash. So here we go. Just kidding. So The Flash is the brand new DC film, and I'm guessing it's one of the final films in this DC extended universe. I really don't know how this movie's gonna play into everything that's going on, and I don't know how it's gonna affect the new DC universe, but my guess is as good as yours. So the basic premise is Barry Allen travels back in time to prevent his mother's death. But of course, messing with something as sacred as time is more likely to have some unexpected consequences. And I will say right away that with how packed this movie is, the premise itself is pretty straightforward, which is one of the many things I appreciate about this movie. And the entire opening sequence of this movie is something I appreciate more and more the more I think about it, because it sets up so much of this movie's tone right off the bat. I think something to expect with this movie is its humor. In the Justice League film, Barry Allen served as the comedic relief. And that's just a tone to him that he carries pretty well. And of course, a movie entirely surrounding him should reflect that and carry a similar tone. Now, this movie is a lot more funny than I expected it to be. And a lot of that humor is felt almost immediately, which then turns the entire opening sequence into something really fun that I had a blast watching. I mean, you get so much of that speedy goodness right away, which kind of leads me into the Speed Force itself. This movie just utilizes the Speed Force really well. The stylization of it is visually impressive, but also just how it plays such a key element throughout this movie is something I genuinely enjoyed. This is a Flash film that feels like a Flash film, to the point where nothing else quite feels the same. Like, we've gotten some incredible speedsters in other films. The Quicksilver sequences in both X-Men Days of Future Past and X-Men Apocalypse come to mind. But something about this movie just felt different. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it's kind of like when Superman flies. You can watch any superhero fly around, but something about watching Superman fly just feels different. Now, say whatever you want about Ezra Miller, but he just works as Barry Allen. I mean, we sort of already knew this, but it was just more evident here. I mean, I guess it's because you spend an entire movie with him here. But he's great in this role, and it's honestly clear. And I was genuinely impressed with him not only playing two different Barry Allens, but two Barry Allens that just felt so different from each other. And top it off with how well they work as a pair, I mean, it was kind of mind-blowing. Ezra actually felt like two different actors playing two entirely different characters, who were still similar in so many ways, but so different in so many ways. And not to mention the editing of both of them together was suspiciously convincing. Like, how does this look so real? They played off of each other so well. Like, they felt like brothers. They behaved like brothers. And ultimately, it made you feel a bond between them. And now the grand return of Michael Keaton as Batman, and the return of Ben Affleck's Batman. And look, I'm gonna say it right now, my two favorite Batman are Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck. And I won't say which of the two I like more, but seeing both of them in one movie was an absolute delight for me. Ben Affleck's Batman had some really fun and badass moments. And as Bruce Wayne, he just continued to be that wise leader. But of course, him being just a cameo means that the main Batman in this movie was Michael Keaton. And seeing Michael Keaton in this role after so long is honestly incredible. But something I found interesting is how true to the time they kept his Batman. It's weird, so much about this version of Batman does work in modern times. Like his fighting is really badass. And he does still embody everything we love about his version of Batman. But this is still a Batman from a different time. It's funny, there's moments where he's using tech that's decades old by now. But the movie seems to acknowledge those things and uses them to its advantage. But now I really want to acknowledge Sasha Calle as Supergirl. Firstly, just for being so incredible in this role. Everything about her was beyond solid. It's almost like she became one with the character. and sort of morphed into her and brought out the most badass version of the character yet. But also on a personal note, I'm having so much joy seeing more Latino actors take on these iconic roles and seeing Latino characters shine in this genre. And I know not everybody can relate, but for someone like me, seeing someone like Sasha wear that suit with that symbol of hope, it means more to me than I'll ever be able to express. Sasha Calle is my Supergirl. Now, overall, this movie does give you so much of what you'd expect, but in the best way. And I feel like in some ways you can't really go wrong with the Flash film, but at the same time, it's easy to see how so much can go wrong. But this movie just knows exactly what it wants to do, even amongst everything it has to offer. This movie is stacked, and yet it never feels messy. It never feels out of place. It's pretty well put together, and not a single second is wasted. And overall, it tells a pretty beautiful story. And I didn't touch on that sooner, but this movie has so much heart and so much to connect to. And as someone who has lost a parent, I related to this movie all too well. It absolutely struck that chord for me, and I'm sure it will for so many people as well. One of my biggest excitements for this movie was that it's directed by Andy Muschietti, a filmmaker who I admire very much, man. I mean, he directed both It Chapter 1 and 2. I absolutely love those movies. But even besides that, Andy's just a filmmaker I trust to not only give us a fun and thrilling film, but to give us a film with so much heart and a story that can absolutely resonate with just about anyone. And that's what makes this movie so special for me. Nearly everything worked really well, and that's not me trying to imply that this movie is perfect, because it's not. But look past its flaws, and you will still find something to not only enjoy, but something to cherish. The Flash gets a 9 out of 10. So how would you rank The Flash? Let me know down below. As always, your time is appreciated. And I'll catch you on the next one.